if all possibilities exist within it, then there's nothing else that can possibly exist without like outside of it because everything within it exists. So anything that
Are
you
we
could ever
confused? Something
imagine, it
else?
has to exist inside of it. And if you and to be able to access all the information, you need 11 dimensions to travel over. When you once you pass the fifth
Alright, I
dimension
think
or the
this
sixth
is...
dimension, you start being able to cross from our universe into universes that have different set of rules. Like the
Actually,
rule
I was just
of
about to find
gravity
a
not being
video
an
for you,
actual
Devin.
thing. If you
I was
watch
just about
how
to find a video for you.
if you watch 11 Dimensions Explained, it's like a series on YouTube. It explains
Yes,
all the things that I'm talking about.
exactly. That's actually what I was going to bring up.
That's where I got
The
all this
imagining the
info from.
10th dimensions.
Yeah.
All right, so you know how he says like the first dimension's practically, a dot.
Well, the first dimension can be thought of as a single integer. One
Exactly.
value. So like a
So
0 or a
inversely,
1 basically.
so inversely,
No, like
absolute
if
nothingness would be literal absolute nothingness.
so
So if you try
on
to
the
go past
in the
that
first
10th dimension,
you have two options basically. You have life and death. In the second dimension, you're able to
choose
distinguish
wisely.
in between life and death. You can have 1 life, 2 life, 3 life. You could have -1 life, -2 life. And then in the third dimension, you end up getting two coordinates, an x and a y. So you can make graphs with that. And that can
Hell yeah.
that can explain how speed works and velocity and how gravity works, and you can map out some interesting scientific stuff in 2 dimensions. And then when you get into 3 dimensions, you get into more complex physics, and it goes on from there to 4 dimensions, 5 dimensions, 6 dimensions, till you end up becoming doing mathematics that isn't comprehensible inside of our brain, but is spatially possible within our universe.
I follow it
Within
pretty
our-
well until we get
within
to
our
about.
mathematics.
I follow it pretty well until we get to about eight or nine. That's what I'm sitting here going. All right, so you want me to look at infinity of infinity options with infinity possibilities? Yeah, that's not gonna happen, buddy. You're asking a little
You
too
just
much
have
of
to
me.
imagine it
I'm
as if
I'm not drunk enough for this.
you got to start grouping the infinities together into different ideas, kind of different concepts, rather than thinking them as infinity. Give them a different name. Make it
Yeah.
simple. Simplify it.
All right, so reality
I take
A
systems and
has...
stuff, and I relate them to other systems to understand the more complex systems. So when you start off with something basic and relate it to things that are complex, you can understand and break things down. You
All right, I
know,
see what you're saying.
you can break
So like
down.
we have reality A and reality B with infinite outcomes. All of those infinite outcomes are going to be classed by colors, blue and red. If we
Yeah.
interact those two universes
So now
together,
let's-
we'll have
let's-
possibilities that
So
become
okay,
purple.
let me simplify this and translate it into different language. We have two computer games, right? Computer game A and
All right.
computer game B. So we got Halo and Call of Duty. Now on Halo, you can start the game up and you can do whatever you want. You can try out any gun, you can try out whatever. There's an infinite amount of ways that you can play the game, literally.
And
But
just
the thing
and
is
just on a
that
side
you can't
note, if
do
you're that asshole that
anything
goes
in
for the
Call of
needler
Duty, bro.
immediately, I hate you.
You can't do anything
Like-
that you can do in Call of Duty in Halo. So switch over to the universe
Well,
of
actually, you
Halo.
can now because Infinite Warfare. Thank you for that.
All right, but you see what I'm saying? Like, that's
Yeah.
how you can have an infinite and different infinites, because there's
Yeah.
literally an infinite
But what
amount
of
things.
what
you
I'm
can
asking
do.
is
Doesn't
what I'm
run-
asking
it doesn't
is
run out.
if those games become self-aware, kind of like Advanced Warfare did.
Wait, what?
If they become self-aware and hold on, if they become those
okay,
those
continue.
universes. All right, so COD and Halo. Let's take them as they are at face value. One's a space marine ball of awesomeness, except for the needler, and if you use the needler, you're what's wrong with the world. And then we have COD. Whereas if you play COD, you're what's wrong with the world. Play Battlefield. It's infinitely better. So I'm just shit talking half of the gaming community right now.
I don't
but
even know what
you
you're
Fuck
doing.
it. So if you go to Advanced Warfare, one of the realities has seen what the other reality has. The other reality has jetpacks, laser rifles, and all this cool shit. So it advanced itself to acquire those things.
And you see, there's another reality where both
mimicking
of the
that
realities
universe.
are the same thing, and they're actually just
I
one
see
game.
I see it as the realities interacting with one another.
Yeah,
Like I
well, the
said
thing
earlier,
is that
Halo's blue,
the
COD is
only
red. Sometimes you're gonna have some purple realities because some universes are gonna become self-aware of one another.
yeah, well, that's why you have
One's gonna
like
go, oh, in this reality they have this. So if we achieve that, my question is, if all the universes do that and take enough from one another that we are now having options. Of course,
that's why there's
infinite
infinites.
can't grow beyond that. But if we start mimicking other universes to the point where we fuck up and copy it like a carbon copy, are those two realities going to just become one? Like, is it possible for two realities to become one reality?
But
Or
here's the problem.
inversely,
Here's the problem
or
with the concept.
inversely,
Humans don't
stretch
understand.
apart?
There's no difference. You're saying things that don't make sense. There's no difference between two different. You can't. They're not separate. They're all. The only way one exists is in relation to the other one. So say you have two dots on a line. The distance
All right.
between those two dots is dependent on each other. If you take one dot out of the line, then you can't say where that dot is on the line anymore because it's the only dot on the line. There's only one dot. You have to have two dots in order for them to have reality. So everything exists in relation to something else. You only know where you are based on what the things are around you. If nothing existed around you, you wouldn't know where you were. The only existence is caused by the relationships between the objects that are existing. So
Fair point, but
everything is
keep in
in
mind we're
relationship.
also
Everything that exists
Keep
is
in mind
in
we're also
relationship. That's
talking-
what that means. Everything that exists
we're
is in
also
a
talking about
relationship
an
with each
infinite-
other. Everything.
We're also talking about an infinite space, infinite time. Everything can be connected to everything. You can't just remove a reality.
Yeah, exactly. Everything that you could imagine plus things that you can't imagine exist and they're connected to each other. Nothing's separated. Everything exists through this long connected
So we went from
interaction.
Orwell to Lovecraft. Just for those of you joining, we went from Orwell to Lovecraft in literally 20 minutes.
Are we actually gonna do something now, or are we gonna continuously discuss time and space?
Yo.
I've just been sitting
Well, I'm
here.
glad
The
you
best
asked,
part about
Jack.
this is
Might
that
I
you can-
introduce you to my Lord and Savior Azathoth?
Yo, the same thing
Oh
with
my
universes
gosh.
is the same thing with matter. It can't be destroyed or created. So when a universe goes out of existence, all the things that were in that universe transfer over to the universes that were simultaneously being propelled through time right next to each other in the four-dimensional space. So in the four-dimensional space,
So I can't
all the universes exist overlapping on top of each other, with all the possibilities existing at the same time in different fourth-dimensional universes. That is why we see the results in this in the two-slit demonstration with the light or the electron acting as not only a wave but also as a particle as it passes through the dual slit. Whatever, the dual slit piece of paper or whatever.
Please.
So basically, not only so
Just end the
when
conversation.
so basically what happens when you shoot one electron through space, as long as it's not being interacted with any object, it becomes fourth dimensional and acts as a wave. So when you're not interacting with anything and there's no relation to anything but time is still going on, you become wave-like and you enter into the fourth dimension and you experience all possibilities at the same time through the one with the one perspective of the thing that is moving through space and time. But not interacting with anything. As soon as you interact with
Lost
something,
half of our
that's
viewers in
when
this
you
conversation.
crack the wave and you're no longer a fourth-dimensional object acting in all possible manners. You become a one-dimensional or a three-dimensional particle in one spot in time in the wave function based on the probability.
Devin, we have lost 7 people already.
I don't care, bro. We've gained 4 and lost 4 and whatever.
I don't even know what we're talking about anymore.
We're talking about quantum physics.
Okay, stop.
I'm explaining things that most people haven't even explained online, but are taught at universities that I've never gone to.
Please.
Yeah,
just
welcome.
Don't...
You
Dude,
just
this
got
is crazy.
You got your intro. You got your intro
Jack,
quantum
if you want, you
physics
can
class
leave.
here for
Yo,
free.
This is important. Yeah, quantum mechanics for free by Devin Ryder. Understanding how
students
the
are paying
fourth dimension
fucking
works.
200,000 a year to just get a basic understanding of what we're just throwing needlessly at one another.
And I'm making connections that I haven't heard other people talk about online yet. And like I study this stuff all the time, and I always hear about like new theories and new stuff that's coming out and stuff. But I haven't heard about I haven't heard it described specifically this way. So I hopefully this makes it easier for some people to understand how something can act as a wave while it's moving. It's because it's not interacting with anything. Things need to interact with things in order to exist. So while they're not in existence, they act as a function of a wave, a probability wave of possibilities. And these possibilities interact with each other, causing certain possibilities to be less likely than others. Which is crazy. That's one of the coolest parts about our universe, is that when we're in the fourth dimensional space, we act as all possibilities that could be possible, and at the same time those possibilities interact with each other on a quantum level. So when you think about it, all the options in your life for all the jobs that you had, all the possibilities in your life, those possibilities interact with each other on a quantum level in a similar fashion. So that's why it's hard for humans to die sometimes. That's why people sometimes have life-threatening experiences over and over again, because they have their paths overlapping to a point where dying is not an easy thing for them, but having a life near-death experience is a higher possibility. And this is a more complex theory that I'm gonna get into in a future video, because it starts looking at other things that aren't proven yet that I want to prove. I have some experiments that I'm not able to carry out, that very questionable experiments, but they would answer some of my questions about my quantum theories.
You're gonna
there's this
aim
one-
at the dark part in
Okay,
the
there's this
Boades
one-
void, and you're just gonna launch someone.
Well, there's one where we send a perspective. The person who's doing the experiment has to be the perspective of the. So the experimenter would have to go into a black hole and record what happens. So
I have to go.
I'm going to hypothesize a metric fuck ton of pain.
the problem
Like
is
absolute
no, I don't
pain.
think any pain. But the problem is that I don't think it would be
I don't even
possible
care,
to get
bye.
the results without doing it by myself. So that kind of sucks. There's another experiment that I want to do that I can't do, and not only is it questionable, but I question it myself, and I don't think I would ever want to actually attempt it until I seen somebody else attempt it, and then maybe I might attempt it. But it's basically the quantum suicide theory, which states that you can't destroy energy or create energy, and it also states that our consciousness is energy, and so you can't destroy your consciousness. So any timelines where you die don't exist from your perspective. So it's impossible for you to die from your own perspective.
Because
So
in every
only-
other reality, you have already died.
Yeah, so anytime that you had
Alright.
a life-threatening experience, you died lots of times in
In
lots
another
of,
reality.
in lots of possibilities in other universes where it was more likely
So if I
to
can
happen.
follow you, so if
But
I
your
can follow you on
consciousness
this,
can't
what you're
die.
saying is,
Because your
so what you're
consciousness
saying
can't
is,
die,
if
you,
in one reality, in one certain reality, because of all of your other, you want to test to see if you are in the reality in which you are immortal.
no, it's everyone will be immortal in their own reality from their own perspective. Other people can die from your perspective, but you can't. Basically, was what it states.
Okay.
So you
So-
can see other people die, no problem, and if you try to kill yourself, you would end up dying for everyone around